the aim for today was really just to talk about the vision. Um, so we all know about Curtis's 4-point vision, which we formed our network group around. And I just wanted to give people opportunity to talk about, you know, what you're already doing in terms of promoting that vision, and also what you might hope to do in the future. So that's you as an individual creator on your own. But then the other thing I want to talk about also is what we can do together as a network to start pushing those four aims forward. Do we need to be forming little volunteer groups to move things forward? And we've got specific projects. The one thing I'm aware of is that I know I, as a creator, am pretty busy, and I don't want to be really loading us with a lot more activity that we're kind of feeling we're having to do, that we're just burdened by it. So I'm just very aware of that. So just kind of hold that in your mind when we talk about what we're going to be doing together. Look, I'll start off with what we're doing, Swedenborg Community Victoria, and also in Australia. And Howard and Joe, if you want to chime in and add anything to this, that's fine. Um, One of the things we've done this year is we've tried to kick off the engagement pod in Australia. So we've just had our national family retreat a few weeks ago. I ran a session on social media, and it was great to have Curtis come along. Um, we had a bit of a chat, and so we're chatting for about half an hour, and then we got everybody just into little groups and talking about engagement pod stuff. So what's come out of that now is Joel Duckworth, who's one of our members up in Sydney, has started up a WhatsApp group and a Discord group for us to be able to say, this video is coming out, let people know that it's available, and try and encourage them to do some, get online, watch it, like it, comment it, on it, all those sorts of things. Um, so that's kind of what we've done already. And then moving forward in the year ahead, what we're doing in Melbourne is we've got a Friday night discussion group. It happens monthly. We've had a variety of speakers, and what we're doing this year is we're pivoting it across to the network. So what I'm doing is I'm hoping to invite uh, each of you and any others who are running channels, and basically run a kind of an interview format. Do that. We've got a Restream account, so use the Restream to do that, and use that as a way of putting you as other content creators in front of my audience. And I'm kind of hoping that that's the kind of thing this network can do, that we can each appear on each other's channels, make our audiences aware of what's going on in the Swedenborgian context across the world. So that's us. I'm going to open it up to others. I might run through my list of who's here today, just because that's what I did yesterday. It worked quite well. So Howard, I might start with you, mate. Have you got anything you want to throw in or add to that?
Uh, no, I think um, part of our engagement pod idea came out of um, some conversations with Curtis. I think I was expressing to Curtis my um, frustration with engaging with the comments, and Curtis in Curtis very clearly said, "Oh, yeah, don't do that." It was very helpful. Particularly, and I've got a great one going on now over my recent reel about Adam and Eve not being real. A lot of people take great offense to some of the things that we put out there, and they make it known, and I frustrate myself trying to make decisions about who do I engage? Who do I block? And those things. And based on what, from what Curtis said, I said, wow, it'd be nice if we had a nice little network where people could engage with the content of other creators, but not necessarily feel like personally attacked. So, and I continue to do that. It would be nice, in an ideal world, I would have a congregation of 50 or 100 people, and I'd have 5 or 10 volunteers in that group and say, oh, hey, I want to get involved in that. But that's not the reality of my church here in Sydney. Our numbers are too small. Of the people who would engage, half of them really aren't even on social media. And if they go on YouTube, they don't have a YouTube account, so they're not commenting or liking or things like that. So that I would just encourage us to be able to do that. At the same time, David makes a very valid point. Anybody who is creating is pretty busy already. So do we want to add more to that? And I guess the question that I wrestle with is, how do we expand that that number of people who can engage, whose primary role is not the content creation?
Thanks, Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. I might pass on to Mark and Karen.
Anything to say? I like the idea of sort of cross networking and supporting. We haven't got to the producing part yet. We were chatting about it this morning. Like, we got to set ourselves a definite date and start. Otherwise, we're going to be planning this thing forever. So once that is up and running, we'd share it and hopefully get some support. But otherwise, we're in the same boat, I think, as many. Time is few, but we want to try and work as efficiently as we can. So that's our goal.
And I think our biggest procrastination is what Howard was talking about, just how do you handle some of the comments, and what is the line, and what do you engage with and what don't you bother engaging with. I watch some of, read through the comments of stuff that everyone else is posting, and sometimes I'm floored at what people are quite happy to say. So I don't know, like, Curtis says, don't read it, so don't read it. But I guess you've got to know at some point people are going to ask useful questions, so you've got to read it. So yeah.
Okay.
Feel that one.
Thanks. The one question that comes up in my mind based on what you both just said is, how can we help? In terms of, what do you need to help you get going, I suppose, not necessarily to push you to get going, but, how can we just assist the process? So that's a question to sit with, I guess, and reach out to, anybody that's here for help, or
and
questions.
I think that's what we're keen to, we don't have to make the same mistakes as others have made. If there is, if there is helpful things that we can have hopefully a better starting point, then we can come up with our own problems, and then work together to try and solve them. So yeah, it's a sort of a shared. How do you said restream?
Yeah,
right.
that's one of the questions.
That's one of the questions we have is
posting platforms.
So,
what do people use? That kind of thing.
What do you have to pay for? What is free? All that kind of stuff. We're still trying to investigate that, and so we're sort of right at the bottom of the rung of ladders. So anyway, that's where we are.
Okay, thanks, guys. That's great. I'm going to move on to Curtis.
Great. So I think I want to talk about the comment issue because a couple of people were bringing it up here. Yeah, so when I first started, I was doing everything on the comments. So I would read the comments. If people were nice to me, I'd hear that. If they were mean to me, I'd hear that. But I'd also like respond to them. Swedenborg Foundation has the resources that now my mom leads the team that does all the comments. We still have enough, we still try to go after every comment, like pretty much every comment we respond to and put thing on, just because we're trying to maximize the oh, someone's interested in Swedenborg, we'll talk to you. Doesn't matter. You commented on us. Of course, we'll talk to you because we just need people to care about this stuff. However, I would say if I was an independent creator like Howard, or what I would do is no, the the time you put into responding to the comments is very inefficient compared to the time you put into making the next video. I would think like it's your space. If there's anything in there that you don't like, you don't even have to block the person, but you can just delete the comment because you don't want it sitting there for when the next person scrolls through and they think, oh, this video must not be good because all these people are commenting negatively. If it's anything you feel like is rude or inappropriate or just not helpful, delete it at will. And also, if there's stuff that you, it's not that bad, you don't need to get rid of it, but you don't want to have to engage with it, don't engage with it. I mean, the norm on YouTube is that people don't engage. We're an outlier. People are always surprised that we engage with all the comments because most people don't have a foundation that will do that. It's so much energy. Really like, yeah, it would be cool to have a little pod of people that got together and answered the comments. I've myself, when I had a video on my second channel I was just getting really beat up in the comments, and I was like, I need people to come and help me. And like I remember talking to some ministers, like, you put this on the Cyber Council? But then nothing ever came out of it. To get people to come there. Ideally, it wouldn't be this group responding to the comments. This group's already busy. What I think we need to create is a culture where there's a bunch of people in the different denominations and groups that are represented here who care about the future of the new church. And they don't realize that there's a front door to the new church. For example, in Howard, your short about Adam and Eve, which I think you did it's a good idea to say Adam and Eve aren't real. That's a catchy, and everything with how saturated everything is, it's got to be engaging and like, it's got to be a hot take or else no one's going to click on it. So that's a great hot take, and it's true. I mean, it's clickbait, but it's not really because you get in there and the idea. So that's exactly the right thing to do. What you'd want to let everyone in all the congregations know who is not trying to make content is you can help. The front door to Emmanuel Swedenborg, one of them is that video, and that video needs to look good. And what would make it look good is if, yeah, there's some negative comments, leave them in, but there's a bunch of positive comments in there as well. And there's an active, so ultimately what this would look like is we created a culture, we get the word out that hey, if you're not going to create content, the fastest way you can help the church in all its different forms grow is to go and be online in these places. So I think that's really important. But I would say in the meantime, just be ruthlessly efficient about no, I'm not talking to this person because we need you to not burn out and stop doing it. And you will if you have to go up and down with us. It's so much energy to fight with someone in the comments. It takes so much energy. Okay, so then if I'm talking about things I'm trying to do, yeah, that's I want to help. I want to give advice to creators like this because I already did it. I already did what you guys are doing. If you want to know about platforms and things, I can give you advice on that. Yeah, so there's a million things I want to do, but part of it is to just like help give all the stuff that we have to everyone who's doing it. I did like David, your idea about like people appearing on each other's channels, because what you want to get eventually is to the point where, yeah, there's a sort of an ecosystem where people react to each other's content. Oh, what's so and so going to say about this? Then you play off each other. Then kind of it gets big. So that would be a great thing to do. Okay, so that's all I'll say for now. But there's a million things that I want to do.
Cool. Thanks, Curtis. Jack Dunyan. Any thoughts on how you might interact with the four the 4 aims?
Yeah, firstly, I have to apologise. I've got an event going on that was an unexpected one. It's not a bad thing, but it's just, my camera might have to go off sort of suddenly.
Okay.
Would see when just as this happened, you might have noticed I had to change rooms. It was just when you were saying what it was we were supposed to be doing, and I've heard some of the comments, so I'm kind of picking up roughly what it is we've been asked to do. But could you please just give me another brief summary?
Sure, no worries.
Thanks.
So Curtis has got. We formed our network group around the four aims that Curtis outlined at the assembly, last year. And so what I was just asking is, what are the kind of things you're already doing, if you are, to push those aims and goals forward? What are the sorts of things you, as an individual, would like to do or have in mind to do, say, in the coming year?
I love the idea. I mean, I watched the video. It was wonderful, and it was good to get all these aims into the one place where everybody can participate. I thought it was a fantastic idea, and it's really long needed. I liked the sharing aspect of it, the way that we're able to support each other, because I know that the algorithm picks up things like comments and likes and shares, and that will make your video more popular, or get it out there for more people to be able to see. And as Curtis was saying about the clickbait, I suppose if you get good clickbait, for want of a better term, as long as the content matches what it says on the tin, then I think the clickbait's okay. So having that clickbait out there in more places, obviously you're going to get more hits. So I like the idea of sharing ideas of how the search engine optimization aspect of it can make people more visible out there in the public era. So I think probably the search engine optimization thing is what I think is I could maybe help people with. And we've also got here in the UK, we've just had a new full-time market media manager come on board. So she's only 26. So that's a kind of bridge between the younger generation and the older. So we're hoping that because she's not yet filled all her time in, we're hoping that we might steal maybe just a wee slice of her time for this project, and get some advice for her as well.
That'd be cool, Jack. That'd be really cool to have her involved. That's fabulous. Thanks very much. Joe, you're not bringing up the rear this time. You got anything to add?
Not a lot. I'm loving this sort of interaction. I think I said yesterday that we're probably what I would consider top of the funnel, but really I'm rethinking that we're possibly at the bottom of the funnel, in the sense that my focus is on deep content, personal engagement. So it's using content that's actually really already available pretty much to engage an individual more deeply in their own. So, as an individual, I'm time poor. I'm a single employee. I'm idea rich, very rich, and that's why I like these sorts of interactions. They're great. I'm acutely network aware, but I've only got so much time to watch other content, and I'm stimulated by it whenever I do. But I lead a very busy life with lots of activities. 200 events that I put up the other day for the year. And that grows to more as the year goes on. So I do think, having had a career in IT, that tech trend to be unpredictable. So what emerges, what survives, what grows is always surprising. And AI is a case in point. But deep integration is predictable. I think that's enduring. For me, it's lasting, and that's why I live in that space very happily. So I'll have to quote as an example the Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. You know that there's Mediocristan, where my personal work is gets the goods, and if I'm not present there, that engagement doesn't grow. I think that's the traditional model of, you know, if I'm massaging, if I'm not there to massage someone, you know, it doesn't happen, and I don't get the income or the results from it. Whereas in Extremistan, I think that's where we're living very much in terms of content creators, that we do something once and we hope that it has the maximum effect across a maximum audience. That's what he calls Extremistan, and I think we're very much living in that space at the moment to help the Swedenborg content reach a wider audience. I think that's a very noble endeavor, and I think we should make use of whatever's around at the moment to make that grow. So really, I've got very little to add in terms of what I'm doing to push the 4 points, other than what I've just said.
That's fine, Joe.
I'm not seeing myself changing a lot in terms of my focus. So I hope that's okay. I love you all.
Yeah.
I think you're all doing wonderful work. And, you know, there are others who are not here too, who are also working really hard at getting this ball rolling. And, you know, I'm so appreciative that this community exists.
Thanks, Joe. I will say, I think, you know, this, for me this morning, it's as much about ideas as anything else, you know. So it might be an idea that's blue sky thinking, you just don't have the capacity to do it, but, you know, perhaps one of us can. And I do wonder about, you know, using the network to share content ideas. For example, you know, I have on my phone a notes file with all of my content ideas. And, you know, maybe that's something that I throw up there, or we all throw up there on the network and say, you know, has anybody thought about doing this? And, you know, one of us can, even if I can't, kind of thing. So that would be great. All right, I'm going to move on to John and Karen. It was Karen, sorry, isn't it? John and Karen.
True. Yep. Two Karens in this chat. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, we'll later.
Okay. Yeah, I want to just talk about the comment responding thing, because I've been doing that since I think 2013. No, yeah, maybe around 2013, when Curtis's channel started to increase in response to it, and he was realizing he can't keep this up, you know, like engaging with the comments and making the content. So I came on board as the first, you know, moderator. And yes, because Swedenborg Foundation has the resources, we now have 3 people employed. I mean, I also am a content creator in helping draft the scripts and do the research that provides a basis for then Curtis to take it and tweak it, but also making quote pictures for every day. Canva, by the way, is available to use for free for nonprofits. And Canva is it's just so easy to use and everything for just making nice thumbnails. I mean, we don't use it for thumbnails because we have a team, but I use it for all my quote picture design and everything. You can import pictures or just use they have a big library of things. So if it makes it easy. But yeah, I have a team of Cara Dom and Lori Odner and myself, who are the moderators, and it does help to be able to have those comments and respond to them for the algorithms. But Curtis is absolutely right. If you don't have, it's hard work. It takes a lot of energy. We have a weekly meeting support group for each other to like debrief of, and it's it's both. It's so wonderful because you get to engage with the people who are excited about it and answer their questions and everything. And also you have to decide what to do with the negative comments. And so if you don't have that time or energy, like Curtis said, you're better off working on your content creation. I was going to say there's a way you can in YouTube disable comments, but I realize, allowing comments is important for many reasons. But just throwing that out there. So yeah, it's a big, and it's a skill that not everybody would ever want to do because it's so, what word am I looking for? Like you do develop strategies over time, but every comment is different. And sometimes the negative ones, you engage and miraculously it turns into a positive conversation. and then other times you respond and it just gets worse and worse. And you have to realize, okay, time to stop with this one. So you can never know, but so that's why it's this ongoing, you develop more and more of a feel for how to do it, but every comment is new at the same time. So it's, yes. So, very, sort of challenging thing to do. And it would take for volunteers, it would take somebody with that kind of a personality, willing to be in there and try things and learn from them and consider maybe this person was just having a bad day. Let me try something, or, and how to, start with the soft front of, something, well, it was Chris Dunn who, because he was moderator for a while, and he and I worked with sort of a strategy, like entering the afterlife strategy of first the celestial angels, try to first be with love and assuming the best, like, I hear you, or, yeah, I see what you're saying, or if someone's saying, you don't read the Bible, or, I'm glad you love the Bible. We do too. So it's going to start soft and open and trying to assume the best, and then go to the spiritual angels with but sharing but here's what we think and believe and see in the Bible. And then, finally you get to the decision of, do we stay in this conversation or not? When people get to that point of just okay, now that everybody find the useful place to be. So, it's kind of that kind of thing and feeling out. But again, that takes a lot of time and energy. So I don't know what to say about that. And in Facebook, you can hide comments, which is a lovely thing to be able to do. So you can the three dots at the right allow you to hide it. So to that person, they are still seeing their comment there, but it doesn't show up for anyone else. If it's really negative and kind of dragging, that's the other thing. You have to balance, is this useful at all? Or is it just being mean? If it's just being mean, not if it's disagreeing. There's a difference between disagreeing and just being mean. You can hide it, which is just a nice thing to be able to do. Then you have to decide, because some people get very angry if you delete their comments, like you're censoring me and you're YouTube doesn't have that. I really wish they did. YouTube has, you can hide the person from the page, which means anything they would post, and they still see it as posted, but nobody else looking at your page does. But I wish they had the individual comment ability, because most of the time, I have occasionally used that. Somebody is they keep coming back and they're only contentious and they're not willing to engage in conversation. And it's only harmful. It doesn't seem to. Let's see. And then I guess one more thing I wanted to say is, for ideas, there's an interesting new feature on YouTube, which if you go into your YouTube studios and under content, you go into content, on the very left, there's a new tab called Inspiration, and it will just use its system to see what kind of thing you post and what your audience is interested in and kind of make suggestions. And I've used that a couple times that I often don't end up using exactly what this inspiration thing said, but it starts my thoughts going, and I get to something related that feels like, yeah, we have something to say about that. And so that's just been an interesting new tool that can pop up for idea generation. Yeah, so I guess that's enough, John. Anything you want
John,
to say?
did you want to add anything?
If I could, yeah, so I'm mostly want to get some clarification, just from my understanding, so I understand this. So we got, I don't think I know what the 4 points are. So is that quick to hear what those are? Curtis, would you state them or something?
Let me share.
Okay.
Well, David, that would have taken me 35 minutes to figure out how to bring up a screen.
I was just sitting there already, so there it is. So Curtis's vision, 100 off the left eyes,
Okay.
a funnel of next steps for those wishing to go deeper. New
Okay.
Church Engagement Pod,
Got it.
which is people engaging with the videos who are already members of the new church or already with a Swedenborgian interest, and the flagship content.
Oh, I do want to say something about those wishing to go deeper. It would be great, and I know John wanted to, when he starts working, volunteering for Off the Left Eye and working with his brother David, for Curtis had this idea of some sort of a landing page somewhere. I don't know where it would live, but listing all of the wonderful things that you all are doing. Because one thing is, if people are interested in groups like discussion groups or book discussion or something, it would be great to know all the ones that are going on, because then we could recommend them to each other. Because, we're doing a few things. I'm heading a couple of book discussion groups in Swedenborg Foundation, but if someone was wishing for a certain topic and I know of somebody else who is doing groups about that, it would be great to be able to recommend, well, here's a Swedenborgian group that's talking about that very thing, and you might want to join their group. So that would be lovely.
Great. Great.
Thanks,
So
Karen.
that document you just shared, David, am I supposed to know where that is? Is that something you have on the Facebook page already?
Yeah, so if you go to our Facebook page, let me just call it up. You'll find it in the go to our group. You'll find it in the featured posts.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
yeah, it's just up here somewhere, I hope. I'll make sure it is anyway, even if it isn't there, if it's been knocked off, perhaps. But yeah,
Okay.
I'll make sure that those are there still.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the pod. So was that just a local gathering of people in one spot from Australia, or what was that?
So we've had an annual retreat, annual
Okay.
family retreat over many years. We had the first one in 5 years just a few weeks ago, and so one of the things I did was run a session trying to begin the engagement pod. As I said, Joel Duckworth set us up with a Discord group and a WhatsApp group that we can post videos to. Now, Joel's vision, I think, from memory, is kind of Australia specific, but it's a useful tool potentially internationally for all of us to get involved with. So,
Okay. And you call it a family thing because of the Australian family? Is that what you mean by that, or?
Oh, family, all ages, an all age retreat. That's all it was.
Oh.
Something we've done
Oh,
annually,
I
as I
got
say,
it. I
for
got
many
it.
years.
I
That's
got
what
it.
that is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
And
was
then,
a great retreat. Curtis came all the way down for it.
Yeah, I went through the internet.
Yeah.
Ah,
Best way to travel.
yeah. And so that funnel, Curtis, you described that a bit yesterday, and let me just say back to what I thought I heard. So at the top of the funnel is sort of described as easy to click stuff, like stuff that gets you a video. That's what Howard's making and David, and it's like that kind of thing. And then you want to sort of feed that into a central hub. I think Howard put Swedflix in the chat yesterday. I kind of like that. But anyway, so that's kind of what my brother David, who's kind of IT guy like Joe, who could, I don't know how that's going to work, but that is something that sounds very exciting that maybe I could help get in place with my brother and Curtis. But then there's sort of mid-level of the funnel, which is what you're feeding from this hub into, which is where people are doing practicing of some kind. Would that be like the chats you do, Curtis? Like with the large, so it's not quite like small group chats, but it's large group chats, and it's kind of mid-level stuff where you got a gathering of people.
Yeah, I think if you're in a Zoom like this, we're officially mid or bottom funnel here. Like this is much more of a commitment than just clicking a video because I have to be here and show up. I have to be here at a certain time. Yeah,
Yeah, so
this
I would
step.
when you brought up the mid thing, I thought right away of our chats that we have when you're live streaming. It's a lot of people and the chats are flying, comments are flying by, and it's a large group. It's not cozy. It's not like Karen's book thing.
Oh, you mean live stream on YouTube and
Yeah.
the live chat?
Yeah, that's top of the funnel. But like something where you have to be there and your face is on it. Something that's gonna make you feel like, oh, I'm more a part of this now. I think the funnel thing is just people who find Swedenborg will either continue to grow in it and get deeper, or they get bored and leave.
Yeah.
So I feel like what everybody has to do is make sure that they don't get bored and leave. And the only way to do that is to have like a robust offering of all kinds of stuff and some kind of system that helps people move progressively into deeper and deeper things. Because otherwise they won't. Eventually, they have to start feeling useful, like they're giving back to the community, or they're starting to create their own stuff. And then we want them in the end to be as central to it as we are.
Okay. And like the bottom of the funnel, I mean, what we really are aiming for is people to have a relationship with God, and to help each other, support each other's faith. So it's like repenting and developing their spiritual life and giving a interaction with the Bible. I think the logo praxis thing really comes in there nicely. So that's kind of like the deepest, that's what we're hoping at the bottom line is the bottom of the funnel, I guess. Yeah. I think of Mark Pendleton's, he could really help us with the repenting side of that. What was his thing called? I forget.
Begin a new life.
Begin a new life, So yeah. Okay, so I just want to get clarification. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I think one of the things that occurs to me, and it's sort of raised its head over a couple of months now in conversation with people, is I think it's going to be very useful if we can define the funnel quite clearly so we absolutely understand what we're talking about and how it works, as I think you've done beautifully today, actually, but then also some definition around what the 100 off the left eyes are. And I just throw this in. I don't want a conversation around it because there's other people who've got to talk to that this morning. But Curtis's phrase, from what I remember from his original presentation, was relentlessly promoting the writings or promoting Swedenborg. And just exactly what that looks like, I think, is going to be useful for us to really define. Because we're a huge group and the variety here is wonderful. But at what point do you become so much variety that you're no longer the core vision? That's always a question that raises my mind. All right, I'm going to move on because we're running out of time. Roz, do you want to say anything about implementation of the 4 points?
Yes, first of all, I want to apologize for all the grandchildren and animal interruptions, but I've been focusing despite everything. Okay. Just sort of a little report or whatever from Deborah's tree. I'd say that we are doing the 100 off the left eye bit of the points. I think I can make that claim because we are out there putting out social media content. The funnel thing we're not doing nearly as well because I don't feel that I've ever referred anybody in the 2 years that we've been doing it into a deeper engagement. Basically, okay, it has something to do with who we reach and the comments. Well, the only time that we really engage or get comments or whatever is if I boost one of our videos on Facebook. Otherwise, it's just our friends and our community, like, oh, thanks, Roz, that was nice, or whatever. That it's nice for the algorithm that somebody said something, but it's not really moving anybody closer to an understanding of Swedenborg. When I boost it, then I'd have the opposite problem, which is comments that we need to hide, like, she looks pretty good for a trans woman and stuff like that. Like, you don't want that. I don't want that. So we've hidden and deleted things depending which, where we were. And then I've gotten like requests for money for different people, and you're like, what? I'd love to support you, but I don't have enough money for what I'm doing. So anyway, we've had some lovely comments and questions from people that I've responded to, and that's, I give my response and that's the end of it. So I need to work more. That's like a goal for us, I would say, is to do that funnel kind of work. The engagement, I'm going to say Sage and I have done pretty well on that. Like, I've been on Sage's thing, and Sage has done videos for us, and we sort of mutually promote each other. And I'm very happy to do that with everybody else, and I'm very happy and grateful for the different people that are on this talk and other people that have consistently liked what we're doing or whatever, or made a little comment or whatever. So that support is fantastic. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what the engagement part is, but that's sort of what I think it is, like supporting each other's, and somewhere on the group, the social media group, somebody had made a comment that I don't know, well, whatever, which was, if it's just people that are associated with Swedenborgian communities that are commenting and liking, like, is the algorithm going to figure out you're just a bunch of people that are just reinforcing each other and nobody else is interested? Like, so I don't know if that's something we have to consider, in doing that work. And then the flagship content, I'm not really sure what that means, and I don't think we haven't done anything that's really flagship. We're just doing what we do. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where we are and where I want to go.
Thanks, Roz. Liz, do you want to add anything to what Roz has said?
Two things. I think Curtis, or maybe somebody else, should consider creating two things. And the first thing would be some kind of file sharing or Google Drive or a place where maybe you call it the cutting room floor, where we can upload for each other stuff that, like, I shoot lots of nature videos. I can't use every shot, right? Sometimes a dog walks through, or like I'm trying to film 10 minutes at once and then my 10 minutes gets interrupted by, birds or whatever. So I have this little 4-minute clip of the ocean or trees or whatever that I can't do anything with. That's something that looks inspiring if you cut off the dog part or whatever, or maybe somebody needs a dog. Anyway, I have a whole lot of content that's like that. And it's possible I can't use it all, but maybe somebody else could use it. And maybe some of you guys have pictures or AI images you've generated that, like, I know when I hit generate, I get like 9 images or something. Sometimes like 2 or 3 are okay. I can only use 1. So, but if I'd saved those other ones, as I sometimes do, because I'm like, I hate to waste this. I have some pack rat tendencies. Then you could upload them, pictures of Swedenborg, pictures of, animals or whatever. And then other people would have access to these things. Like, you would only upload these things if they were things you were fine with passing into the public domain, more or less. Like, you don't care that other people are going to use them. So it'd be sort of like a Google Drive. Like, if you put stuff here, everybody can use it. But it might be something we could do as a group that would result in lots of resources for us. You know, I know there are Canva and some other places that will let you just grab it off the internet. I'm always worried at some point that's going to come back to bite you. Like, somebody's going to have got the copyright of that somehow and be like, hey, you stole something from my video. So we could avoid that unpleasantness if we had some kind of file sharing thing where if you had something you didn't need, you could do it. Second thing I think you could make would be some kind of bulletin board or members only kind of a thing where you just put the people in this circle in there, where people can request various kinds of support. Hey, does anybody have any pictures of, I need a dove for a video? Do you have that? Do you have a clip of the ocean? Do you have a clip of, you know, whatever? Because maybe somebody has it, and maybe, you know, go fish. Sorry, you're out of luck. But at least you had a place where you could kind of free cycle, ask for things, and maybe the universe will provide. And it just might be a good place, a good thing to do, because I know sometimes when I'm making videos, I wish I had a music clip, or I wish I had, you know, like, there's just something, you know, here's a really good sound filter I worked with or something. Like, all of that is great to know about. If somebody has already made it, then it saves me, and is willing to share it, then it saves me the trouble of having to do all the stuff all the time. So I like that. The other thing I want to say is, there, for those of us who live close enough, there's probably even material exchanges we could do. I have a nice backdrop in the back here. I, as part of my upbringing, I went to a kids and video extracurricular activity called Cine Kid, and they trained me there to, like, always really pay attention to what you're putting on a screen. They're making videos with VHS tapes, so I've had to learn how to do all this stuff all over again. But, like, if you have the option to put something beautiful or wonderful, you know, maybe my face doesn't look beautiful, but, like, the screen looks really nice, okay? So that might help people be more likely to watch it than if you have, like, I don't know, something going on in the background that's just not that cute. So I think those are my thoughts. I will agree with Roz that, like, running a women's channel, we get more, like, sexual harassment, like, she's cute, how can I meet her? Like, okay, whatever, you're a dummy, like, I'm deleting your comment. Because it's sexist and gross. And I don't feel bad about that. And I do block people if they sound like they're going to be stalkers or weirdos, or, you know, come after somebody, because you got to be safe on the internet. So I think that's all I have to say. And yeah, maybe Curtis, you don't want to do that, or, you know, maybe I'll make that drive, and then, you know, myself. I don't know. It's just an idea I had that I think would facilitate a lot of sharing of stuff that we all need, and maybe it would be cool. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Liz. There's some great ideas in there. As far as your bulletin board goes, this is one of the things I use our WhatsApp and Discord group for, is requests, and particularly requests for support on comments as well is something we could use that for. So let's work on getting those implemented. Sage, I give you opportunity to comment. Do you know what we're talking about?
I'm picking it up. Yeah. You know, everything I'm doing is very new, so it's all still forming. I think on some level, what will be coming out in March could be considered flagship content. I think the March event will be Ray Silverman will be speaking, and then some other kind of experts on Helen Keller outside of the church, but who are very familiar with her faith. Hilary Bach, who's a deaf actress, who actually she's trying to get a film produced about Helen Keller. And she shared the script with me, and John Hitz plays a huge role in the story. and they speak about her spirituality very openly. So I think there's a lot of excitement there. So I guess that's the area of flagship content. And if we can get our legs behind underneath us, I hope to produce more videos and, sharing quotes more about Helen's faith and life. But then I think on the other side, I'm probably more down in the funnel, wanting to make space for people to be together, to imagine the call of the new church. I wonder about all these people on the off the left eye being inspired by Swedenborg and then wanting to dream big about what the call of regeneration and new church life is. So yeah, those are the different places of the funnel that I am inhabiting at the moment.
Thanks, Sage. So look, I've given everybody opportunity to have their say. Howard's had to sign off. He's got something else to do. And I can be a bit more flexible today because I'm not running off to do a service. So look, just opportunity to open it up and share any comments. If anybody's got any questions, we can just chat. Feel free to leave as and when you need to, and we'll sign off when we're all fed up and need a cup of tea. So open floor. Anybody, anything they want to say? Or okay, John, you were first.
Jack, please. Jack, go ahead first, please. Okay, I just wanted to understand a little more about the flagship because I just saw those words I don't know. Curtis, could you say something about that?
I think flagship content is the least important one, but I do think it has a place. So I will say that we don't really make that kind of content at Off the Left Eye anymore, but we used to. We have like an animated video called "You Are the Lungs," which is about the grand human, and we have "Who Was Swedenborg" video. Still, when someone wants like, "What's the first video I should watch?" we still kind of point to that. I think what you would need is what's the flagship, I guess you could say, front door. Like, what's the first thing you'd want a person to see? But also sort of like what's the, again, set like a high water mark for this is the peak of Swedenborgian content right now. And so like when I was talking about it in the assembly talk, I was picturing, and you could do like something. Well, I thought about like, so there's like the June 19th pageant at Bernathen. It's really gotten huge. Like it's just this giant lawn full of people, and then you have like all these fancy costumes and stuff. I was thinking like, man, it'd be cool to like you build like a replica of the New Jerusalem, but like you can walk through it, but it has like the internal sense in there, so you kind of get the experience of what it means as you go through. Movie videos like that are a spectacle, and we would like unveil it there, and then a bunch of people would walk through. There's a whole, I mean, that's like what Mr. Beast is. That's like what a lot of the top of the internet is. I think we can do that kind of thing. So I think that would be like the last thing to fall into place. I think once you've got like really got your Swedenborgian world working together and it's growing and you got a lot of creative people with a lot of ideas and means, we would start to collaborate at times to produce these things that would go farther. I'm not saying they would necessarily get the most views, but they'd be like what you'd want to hand someone and say, this is something cool you'd want to see. So
Okay,
yeah, it's
well,
not, you don't need it right away, but it's something cool to do in the future.
thank you. So if I recorded a song and played it, it'd be like a flagship kind of thing. Okay.
That is what I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but
Thanks, John. Jack.
Yeah, thanks, David. I just wanted to say something more general about the whole. I mean, I'm really, really delighted to be here. And I think one of the things that attracts me to this group is the diversity. I think it's wonderful. One of my favourite sayings Swedenborg says is that every diversity draws its quality. Sorry, every unity draws its quality from diversity. I love that saying, and it's often kind of maybe selectively left out of some places. But I think what I've witnessed in my sphere over the years in terms of the Christian church has been we constantly do outreach projects. So we sort of recognise that nothing's really attracting anybody in the church. So we try to make the church look better, and we put it out there in a different sort of forum that attracts people to something that they weren't attracted to in the first place. So for me, the real outreach is about the church becoming the diversity. So this is why I'm attracted to this kind of group. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, because what I can see here is that people are allowing people to be different rather than trying to make everybody the same. But I also completely recognise that the challenge of that, and how do you do that without diluting the core principles? That's going to be a challenge. I just wondered, is there anything that we could look at that could maybe be foundational in that sense, that we could all agree to as a core values or whatever that need to be held in place? Because if we don't anchor ourselves to some kind of rock, we're just going to end up adrift at sea, possibly. And I think maybe society is going through a wee bit of that at the moment. Kind of lost our history in a sense, and we're a bit adrift at sea. So I just wondered if there's anything that we could do to try and anchor us to the core principles while allowing that wonderful diversity to flourish.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I focused in on what Curtis said, this relentless. What was it? What was the phrase you used, mate? Relentlessly.
I don't remember.
It was the word relentless. So go looking up in the transcript of that
like
video.
Sounds intense, you know. I think that you have to have an identity, or else you'll just get overwhelmed by, there's so much out there, and there's so much spiritual content of all kinds, and we're not going to outdo those people in their lane. I think that what I feel like I've learned from Off the Left Eye is that's very, like, it's not overbearing. It doesn't, it accepts, all kinds of viewpoints and things, but it's very much got its identity, which is like, you come here, you're going to get Swedenborg. You're going to get those ideas pretty clearly. And I think that's why it worked. Because I think that you got to find your tribe, and you got to have something you offer that the competition, they're not, doesn't, not, this is we're this particular organ that produces this hormone. So I think what I would say would tie, if I was to say what could make it Off the Left Eye, what makes something part of the 100 Off the Left Eyes, is just that your content is featuring, like almost every time, if not every time, either direct Swedenborg, like you're seeing the text on the screen at some point, or it's ideas that are clearly drawn from it. But within that, there's such a spectrum of ideas. Even Off the Left Eye has had so many phases. Like at time, we used to be, you can be sort of this like afterlife kind of spirituality channel. We've had like, you can also be like this sort of new Christian kind of channel. There's so many faces and facets of the teachings. And I would think you'd want to have a bunch of people, bring to life those different lanes in Swedenborg. But yet you're speaking this common language because you're tied to or you're gaining the benefits of the unity. So Swedenborg's already done that. Like there's so many. You can be talking about everything from internal sense of Book of Revelation to philosophy of life to aliens. Like it's you can go anywhere you want. But the cool thing about the books and why you fall in love with them is they all those different topics pull back to a consistent center. I think we can do that. We can all be ourselves and be different. But as long as it's centered around either the text or ideas that are obviously from the text, like you would get in trouble for plagiarism if you didn't cite it, then I think it'll have the unity that will allow us to stand out. That's my opinion on it.
Thanks, Curtis. Joe.
Yeah, just want to respond to. I've really enjoyed what's just been said, and thanks for sharing that, both John, Jack, Curtis, and all the other things that have been said, Ross, too. Something that comes to mind, which is a sort of response or a resonance with what Liz said, that this sharing of cutting room floor content. I'm a very visual learner, or let's put it this way, I like to present what I've learned visually. And so whenever somebody says, oh, what about this afterlife stuff? Or what about these bodies? Or what about this? Or what about that? I send them to an Off the Left Eye YouTube, content piece that addresses that, because there's so much there already, which is wonderful, and I don't have to reproduce that. But over the years, and this is just a natural habit of mine, is when I get an idea in my head that clarifies something, I try to create a PowerPoint slide for myself and put it in a PowerPoint presentation, which I may never use, but I've got thousands of these slides explaining a particular principle. I'm happy to share at least half of those, if not more, with others that may benefit from that. They may go scratch their head and go, what's he going on about here? But for me, it's been a very important way to pull together a presentation for, say, the family retreat or something else that I'm presenting. And if anybody benefits from that, I'm happy to have to see a place emerge where that can be shared more readily. And I'm happy to put those slides up there or other content that I might have access to, because I realise I don't think I'm in the game of providing lots of online content in terms of, here's a video of something. We do that in the Swedenborg AU YouTube channel, but it's very slow moving. We put up one every 5 months or something. It's not exactly a daily or a weekly occurrence. But with stuff like that I'm just talking about, my visual description of an idea, which is very important to me and very much relates my life to the content of Swedenborg, and anybody else who's expressed a similar spiritual idea nicely and succinctly, happy to share that sort of stuff, and maybe out of that might emerge other people's visions of how to express that idea, and it may just help the conversation that we're having with our audience a little more efficient. So that's
Thanks,
just
Joe.
my note.
Thanks, Joe. Liz.
Well, I've always been really impressed by the production values on the Off the Left Eye content. I just want to say, so good job. Oh, did Curtis leave us? Okay.
Yeah, Curtis is gone.
Does anyone know what the what the budget is for like an episode of Off the Left Eye? Maybe John and Karen.
I wouldn't be able to give you a number, but it takes let's see, they have 3 full-time employees on the production team.
Okay.
So imagine that amount of dollars.
So
Yeah.
how long does it take you to produce a video from conception of the idea through to final production and publication?
Okay, well, as Curtis says, it's taken many different formations over the years. But currently, I'm usually at the starting point of an idea, sometimes just being in touch with Chris, who's our, what do you call him? He's the analytics guy. Yeah. So looking all the time at like, what are people interested in? What are people interested in? And sometimes with Curtis, but often Curtis is too busy to be there at the conception of the idea part. So I'm there, and I will, it can sometimes be like the turnaround from idea to a script draft, which I just hand to Curtis. It's basically a document with a series of quotes and a sort of a narrative flow, like basic ideas to cover. So that'll be anywhere from 2 days. Sometimes have to turn that around to a week. And then they will film it. And then probably, so I'd say the whole thing, it can be either 1 or 2 weeks of turnaround between conception to filming to editing to posting. Was that
And
the
you have
question?
3 full-time employees, and how many volunteers on average in an episode?
No.
Right now, not really any volunteers. It's yeah, they're all employees.
And I guess you've got a couple of different projects on the go at any one time because you're publishing at
Yeah.
least once a week.
Once a week. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have studio space.
Yes. Yeah, we have a studio, all the equipment, you know, filming equipment, editing equipment. Yeah, we have subscriptions to for images and stock video, you know, like subscriptions to a couple of stock video and stock image, and I think stock music too. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of things that not everybody can have because there's the Swedenborg Foundation behind it.
So Liz, what were you thinking with what was behind the
Oh.
question?
What was behind the question is someday I want to make more, I guess, cinematic videos. Like right now, we're making a lot of videos that are great. They're things around the community, they're brunches and events and stuff like that. And I don't know if anytime soon we would get to this, but like one thing about Deborah's Tree is that we're looking for content that appeals to Swedenborgian women. And I've always thought that one thing we should do would be like make a kids show, because women have kids. Well, in fairness, men also have kids. But, you know, I thought that would be cool. Like, why don't we have Swedenborgian Sesame Street? But that's the kind of thing that I would need a studio to do. And right now my studio is look at that. That is, it's a big curtain rod in front of which I sit. So, you know, you can do a lot with this. Like I have many of these different backdrops, and we have done fun sorts of recording in front of them. And it's the kind of thing where if you need a backdrop to sit in front of, and, you know, I recommend them, they're awesome. Maybe I would be able to share those with you in return for some other kind of favor from you. I really do think things should be nice. But you know, that's, there's like a lot of stuff that would have to get paid for. One thing Deborah's Tree doesn't have is studio space. So what we have instead is kits of mobile stuff that I drive around to different places. Whether it's a Zoom TV or like 3 different cameras or a whole bunch of webcams, or we just have like different things, sound equipment in a sound equipment box. I keep everything in plastic boxes and I try to sort it out, because if you don't have everything rolled up and ready to go when you roll up to your event, then there's going to be a disaster. So, you know, but it's a lot. It's a lot of being really, really organized. And what I would like to do would be someday have a permanent space or access to a space. And at that point, what I would like to do would be to make actual flagship content, I guess. Because as a little kid, I grew up thinking I would maybe work in that industry. Various things happened, so that didn't work out. I take care of my dad. He's not well right now, so that's what I do in my spare time, or vice versa. So, but I know at some point I won't always be doing that, and I would like to move on to, you know, making Deborah's Tree bigger and better, and we can put, you know, I love the flagship content idea. That's going to be really cool. So that is why I'm always trying to find information, you know, maybe that's public somewhere, how big the Swedenborg Foundation is and how much money it has, or something. Like, it would be helpful to me to know, even though I realize it's probably not my business.
Well, I think it's a nonprofit, so that should be publicly available.
Oh yeah, it's published each year. So
just a matter of, if you write to info@swedenborg.com, you could probably be led to somebody who can answer that.
Annual report,
yeah, annual reports and
yeah.
budget
Okay,
stuff.
cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
But it seems like comes to my mind when you talk is like there's probably a studio rentable, you know, and maybe some of those funds could, I don't know where the foundation's going, but part of this might be, I don't want to speak for that, but you know, could be some funding come along for some of these things if you have a special interest like that. And then so yeah, so I would keep your eyes open for what spaces
Yeah.
are available. How much do they
We're
cost
getting
per
pretty
hour?
good at writing grants, although I have to give the credit to the other people. I don't write the grants.
Yeah. The foundation did sell, or they had a building in Westchester, Pennsylvania that has been sold now. And so now the building, I think it's being rented from Bernathen College. I think it's a building, if you know Bernathen, it's right next to the skating rink.
Oh, okay.
But they're renting a building, and that's where the studio is.
You know,
And a
that
couple of
probably
offices.
sits empty a lot of the time. Not a lot of the
Yeah, I
time,
mean,
Okay.
that'd
but
be
some of the
cool.
time.
Maybe
Sometimes.
there would be a way for us to rent it from you sometime. I don't know. It's obviously
Yeah.
my boss has to approve that stuff. She's looking at me like, "What are you talking about now, Liz?" So I will put my dreams back into their little Pandora's box.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing. I can't speak for Christopher.
Yeah, right.
I'm
But this is
gonna
how we get the dreams, is just starting small and talking and,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm gonna go to Jack. You had something, you put your hand up a little while ago. Just something you wanted
Yes,
to add.
thanks. Thanks for your question, Liz. I wanted to ask John and Karen if so, when you get to the level that Curtis is on, which I think is the 100 channels that we're all aiming to get, is that self-sustainable, or do you need to does it need a lot of funding?
It gets a lot of funding. It has a lot of people interested in funding it, though, and just got a very good grant from a large company. So yeah, it's always an effort. It's not self-funding. You know, we get some money from contributors. That's a very small part of it. I mean, as far as watchers, viewers go.
There have to be 2 full-time employees that are the fundraisers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
Okay.
yeah. And that's a going thing, you know, constant fundraising work.
I can imagine.
Joe.
I'm looking at your background there, Liz, and thinking about Roz's, you know, coming up with Deborah's tree, and thinking about Jack's comment about flagship content. And I'm thinking a tree is just a beautiful metaphor, isn't it, for what we're doing here? That in a sense, we've all got our own branch, but we're all connected to the trunk. And even if that trunk is not, you know, representing one big piece that we can market around and say, well, if you want to know anything about Swedenborg, watch this, you know, one thing. Everybody's saying the one thing, you know. It's all there. It is there. And just another idea that sort of came in relation to that is that this is a great group of representatives from all aspects of doing Swedenborg material, spiritual material really is what I would call it, according to Swedenborg. And then wouldn't it be great if, well, here's an opportunity anyway, that if we wanted to interview each other, you know, I think a lot would come out of that you would cross-pollinate these branches and go, oh, look, there's this branch over here doing this thing, and oh, it's great to be aware of that. And you could have some really good conversations about spiritual content, well, spiritual life, really, from people who are doing this kind of thing. I know we're all busy, of course, but there's an opportunity there to cross interview each other on whatever channel content or whatever you're providing. And there's even more people than are here present, I know, who are doing really good stuff. So you know, that could grow. I'm thinking of who is it? Bradbury, what's his name? Rory, is it? Bradbury, Watts, something. Anyway, he used to do a lot of interviews, and I found that really useful. You know, he interviewed Peter Rhodes, and you know, I know Off the Left Eye's also interviewed Peter Rhodes. So there's a lot of things happening in all these spaces that are. It's a really good way to make use of that expertise and the variety of those insights and work that we each do. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks. Look, I'll just mention. Does anybody have anything else they want to say right now? See you, Roz. If not, all I just say is Howard posted in the chat a couple of ideas for future meetings. He said, you know, how do we fund? Oh no, effective advertising and perhaps a meeting for a bring an idea. Does anybody have any sort of ideas of things that we might in the future when we, you know, and I have no idea when we'll schedule it, but you know, ideas for future meetings that would be worth talking about?
Cutting room floor. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Where's the trunk?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Jack?
Yeah, I think Joe's idea is, I think that's a really good idea, the cross-pollination interviewing technique. Because I've noticed looking at other YouTube videos, if someone has got an enormous amount of subscribers, say Curtis, for example, and they bring someone onto their channel and have a chat, it does allow people to say, well, who's this person? Could I subscribe to them as well? So you end up getting a lot of subscribers just from being on other people's channels. It's got a lot of subscribers. I really love that idea of cross-pollination. I think that's worth pursuing.
Yeah, and it has already been done. I mean, Curtis and Karen, you were speaking to Howard and Todd. It's only a couple of weeks ago, really.
Yeah, it's something Curtis wants to incorporate and just getting started on some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, look, I'll mention the fact that I'm intending to do that all this year. So I've got Howard coming in February for our February meeting, but I'm looking for people to come and talk to our group and then into my YouTube audience as well. So, you know, I'll be knocking on doors and asking for people to put their hand up for, you know, the rest of the months in the year. So just be aware of that too. Anybody, any thoughts or ideas about future meetings that we could usefully have? Again, I don't want to be wasting time. I want us to be, you know, valuable things. You can always drop it in the Facebook group anyway.
I think you could probably maybe have a meeting of people's software that people like to use, particularly an equipment. I've been actually pitching this to Roz as a brunch talk up at Caronwood Village, where we do our brunch talks of just, I would bring all my equipment and show you guys what it is, or show people who want to learn, you know, how to deal with equipment, because I know it's confusing when you first start, like, what camera should I get? What mic do I need? You know, for anyone who's still on that level, you can't get to 100 channels if you don't have the basics. So probably some content that you might want to generate for your ring of 100 or however many influencers this is going to be would be something that's like not even for your channels, but just internal training content, PowerPoints or stuff like that.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. John, Karen?
Yeah, I'd love to do something around core values, like hammer that out, like write our Constitution. So,
yeah.
I mean, like just talk over that, because I think what I've heard is a variety of perspectives. So what is in common between all those? All, you know, from Gurdjieff to all sorts of things we've talked about here. So like, what is it that we, what do we have as core values? And then, and like you said, the 4 points, just a little more like, what is 100 off the left eyes? You know, what does that mean? So that's sort of part of the core values, but yeah, so dig into that a little more. I do like what Liz is saying about practical stuff too, but I'm a kind of a guy who supports people who have the ideas, and I need to hear the ideas nice and clearly presented. So
Thanks, John.
I'll just add to kind of like what Jack was saying. I love this group and the diversity, and yeah, I think Curtis was articulating well, kind of a common core of Swedenborg ideas. And this is so great because I'm just reading The New Church in the New World by Margaret Beck, and history of, you know, people trying to do things with Swedenborg's books. And there was so much argumentation and contention at the beginning of differences of opinion, starting with separatists and non-separatists. And the thing is, I feel this new era starting in the Swedenborgian world of being way better at, you know, having different approaches, but feeling unified by just the core material that we're coming from. And so that's exciting.
Yeah.
All right, lovely.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Look, it's we've been going for almost an hour and a half, so I think it's probably time for us to draw a line under it. Well done for making it this far. Yeah, you are, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 of us have made it all the way. Very good. I don't know when we'll schedule another meeting. We'll chat about that on the Facebook group, I think. Some of the things that have been mentioned today, we'll start talking about getting implemented. Like, it's easy to get a WhatsApp group or a Discord group up and going, or, you know, I send you to the link to the Australian one or whatever. We'll figure all that kind of stuff out. But there's some good stuff. It's been really useful chatting to you all, and great to connect across the world, and, you know, to be able to begin to support each other, I think, is just fabulous. So I'm really excited about what's ahead.
Thanks, David.
Thanks,
David,
thanks
for the idea and putting it on. Yeah, good to
Yeah.
see you all. It's fantastic.
Yo, thanks,
Yeah.
Joe. Bye, Liz.
Stay well. And Mark and Karen, all the best with you know, your future establishing your channel, whatever it looks like. And yeah, look, reach out to any of us if we can be of any help or encouragement, you know. So
We'll put some questions on the Facebook group and see what help we can get.
yeah, all good.
Excellent. Thanks
All
very
right,
much.
thanks everybody.
Best wishes
Enjoy
to
the rest of your
everyone.
day. Okay. Bye-bye.